What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. All right, so it's time for us to go ahead and get back into our coverage over the X-Men. And so we pick up with Generation X. Now, here's the thing about Generation X. It was the 1990s version of New Mutants to kind of bring in a new wave of young mutants to have fans kind of care for or to possibly grow with. And honestly, it was a good idea. Now, the problem was that at the very early days of this series, it only had 4 issues and then it had to stop for like 4 or 5 months. And here's the reason why. Because of Age of Apocalypse. You see, when it came to the series first being released in the mid-1990s, it was also coming out at the same time as Legion Quest. Now, when it comes to Legion Quest, it's the whole idea of Charles Xavier's son Legion going back in time to kill off Magneto. And here's the reason why. Because to Legion, he believes if Magneto was not around to constantly get in his father's way, then the possibility the world could be a better place. Not just for mutants, but mutants and humans together to help Charles reach his long life goal, where mutants and humans are able to live together in harmony. But the problem was that when he did go back in time, he didn't kill off Magneto, he killed off Charles Xavier on accident. And so with the death of Charles Xavier, it had brought in a whole brand new timeline, the Age of Apocalypse. And so with that small event right there, it had also affected the other X books at the same time. So X-Factor, Excalibur, X-Force, Wolverine, Cable, and of course, Generation X. And the thing was, all the different X books had to end at the same time because, again, we're going into a brand new timeline, Age of Apocalypse. And so what happened was, at the very end of each of the X books, you had your X heroes going through some kind of situation. But then at the very end of that situation, you then had your heroes be frozen in time. And the reason why, because the old timeline was going away. A brand new timeline was coming into the picture. But when it came to Generation X, it was one of the few X books that kind of ended on a good note leading into Age of Apocalypse. Because, like I said, the other X books at that time, you had your heroes going through some kind of situation, and you had no idea if they were going to be able to handle that situation. But then out of nowhere, they were frozen in time. For our heroes over here, no, they were able to handle their problem, and then time was frozen, and of course, a brand new timeline came into the picture. Now let's go ahead and get into today's storyline, where we do pick up with our young heroes going on a field trip thanks to Banshee. Now, when it comes to their field trip, they're heading up to Maine, but the problem is that the usual way up to Maine is blocked off. And the reason why? Well, you do have police officers tell our heroes a completely different reason of why the roads is blocked off at the moment. But the real actual reason is because there is a hostage situation going on at a nearby school. You see, there was this young boy who's holding school up right now because he wants an education. Now, the thing is, they believe he is a mutant. And let me explain why. Because in the world of Marvel Comics, when it comes to some mutants, they look normal, like Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, Bishop. But you have some mutants who don't look normal, like Nightcrawler, Beast, Mystique, and the list goes on. And so the thing is, in a small town, you have all these different people believe the young boy named Elliot must be a mutant because the way he looks. And the thing is, the only thing he wants to do is get an education. But they said no, because he looks like a mutant. But the thing is, he's not a mutant. And you see what I mean as we go through today's storyline. But right now, he's holding the school up right now. He has a few hostages, including a teacher. Now, the teacher is the one person who's in his corner, who believes the young boy does deserve a chance to have an education. Now, we also learn here that when it came to Banshee, he didn't take all the brand new young mutants on his field trip. Some had stayed behind at the brand new school of Charles Xavier, like, for example, Pennis and also Chambers. Now, remember, in our last video, it was Chambers who was kind of able to connect with Pennis to kind of show her, like, hey, listen, you're not in danger. These other people around me, they're here to help you. Because remember, for Pennis, she was a prisoner for a very long period of time. And so she kind of felt like, once again, she was still a prisoner when you had our heroes bring her over to the school. But it was Chambers who was the one to kind of calm her down, to help her relax. So right now, it's her kind of adjusting to the idea of no longer being that prisoner. But you also have Chambers still being there in her corner, kind of like, hey, I'm just here to help you relax, to help show you that you're now in a safe and a better place. Now, in our last video, we had talked about the idea of the return of the Nanny and Orphan Maker. Now, here's the thing, because these are two characters I had completely forgotten about when it comes to our coverage over the X-Men, because it has been a very long time since we last saw these two characters in one of our X books. So let's go ahead and sit down and do a quick refresher on who in the world is the Nanny and also Orphan Maker. And let's go ahead and start off with the Nanny. Now, when it comes to the Nanny, we had learned her origin a while back. You see, for the Nanny, she used to work for an organization known as the Right. Now, the Right was a group of people who hated mutants. Their main goal was to go ahead and kill off the mutant race. Now, at first, she had no idea that was their end goal until she realized that was their end goal. And she said, you know what? It's time for me to leave. Unfortunately, she got captured and got trapped inside one of her containment suits. And so that's why she's in some kind of egg suit. Now, with that being said, when it comes to the Nanny, she also believes that it's up to her to help protect mutants who have humans as their parents. And that brings in Orphan Maker. Now, when it comes to Orphan Maker, okay, he was the first child the Nanny took in, right? And the thing is, she uses him kind of like her bodyguard, but also kind of like her hitman as well. If there's some kind of mutant child out there who has humans as their parents, she said, hey, I want that child. So go out of your way to make that child an orphan. Go ahead and kill off that child's parents. And so right now, that is his current assignment, to kill off the parents of Elliot, the young boy who's currently holding the school up right now with a few hostages. Now, luckily for Elliot, you do have Generation X there to kind of help out with this situation. Their main goal is to get him the heck out of there because they already know how things are looking right now. The police, they're plotting to go ahead and kill off Elliot if his parents are not really able to calm him down. Now, when it comes to Banshee, he gave each member of the team an assignment to kind of help with the plan to get Elliot out of there. But also, Jubilee is the most important piece are part of the plan. And let me explain why. Because for Jubilee, her goal right now is to walk around to ask different people to kind of get a better idea of what's going down with Elliot, to learn more about Elliot as well, where we do learn here that he was just a young boy who came here to get an education. But unfortunately, he was kicked out because the way he looks, because they believe that he is a mutant. Now, with all that being said, for Jubilee, she was supposed to report back to Banshee, but she said, you know what? I have a better idea. So you have Jubilee run off to do something else completely. And that right there will kind of give her the reason why I say she is the most important part of Banshee's plan. But as we go back inside the school, we kind of learn here that for Elliot, he's trying his best to continue on with his idea of getting what he wants, an education. But the problem is that he does not understand that what he is doing is completely wrong. Now, the teacher, the one that was in his corner, that teacher has a bad heart. And so with everything going on, unfortunately, the teacher dies in the arm of Elliot. And that's so sad because that was the one person he had in his corner that came from this school. Now, I kind of want to shift our focus on to Sync. And here's the reason why. Because for Sync, he has the ability to connect to other mutants nearby him. And when he does that, he is then able to copy their abilities as well. And so for Banshee, he said, hey, Sync, I need you to go ahead, connect your powers to Elliot inside to kind of learn more about his abilities and how we can use it against him. But the problem is for Sync, when he tries to use his ability, he said, hey, Elliot is not a mutant, but there is another one here I have not seen before. I don't recognize it at all. And of course, he's talking about Orphan Maker. So right after that, you then have Orphan Maker just pop out of the vehicle he was hiding in and trying his best to complete the assignment that was given to him by the nanny. Now, for our heroes, they're trying their best to stop Orphan Maker, but to also protect the innocent people who are just there and now being attacked by Orphan Maker as well. Now, really, we don't have to sit down kind of talk about this battle because nothing really important comes out of it, because by the end of the battle, you do have Orphan Maker get away, and you do have our heroes realize that it's probably best to not even try to follow Orphan Maker for the time being. But now we are able to shift our focus over to Elliot and also Jubilee. Because now we get into the whole idea of why I'm saying Jubilee is very important for the storyline, because you have Jubilee being able to sneak into the school, and once she's able to confront Elliot, all she sees right now is Elliot just holding the dead body of that teacher who was in his corner, just trying to be there for Elliot. And you have Jubilee kind of realize that right now, Elliot, he needs that person in his corner. He needs that friend, but also somebody help him realize, hey, it's time to go ahead and give up. It's time to go ahead and leave the school, because everything you're doing right now is the wrong moves to make if you're trying to get that education you want so badly. And so you then have Sync being able to walk into the room. And when he does, we get that confirmation that this kid is not even a mutant. He's just somebody who, unfortunately, came in the world looking differently, where you now have people judging him by the way he looks. And so this kind of leads into the whole ending of today's storyline, where it's really more of our heroes being frozen in time, but kind of done in a joking type of way. Like, hey, here comes our heroes. They're now frozen in time. And with that happening, as you all know, it leads into Age of Apocalypse. But with that being said, guys, this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.